Hey everyone, it's me, Jayme Johnson. Happy Wednesday, worthy Wednesday. Hope you guys are doing great. It's funny, it's such a nice night here in Atlanta. I'm sitting on my back deck, and hopefully I can get through this. A, before it gets dark, and two, I just started feeling sprinkles. So if it starts to unload, it's a little cloudy above me. If it starts to unload, I will hop in inside and finish this there. But yeah, it's like, it might literally start pouring down rain. How funny would that be? Oh well, that's okay. I'll move in if I need to. How are you guys doing? It's fun to be here. It's been a few weeks, but I'm back tonight. I'm excited to be here. If you're here, I would love to see you. Come say hi, leave some comments so I can see you. Say you're here. I'm using this platform that isn't like directly on Facebook, and so it's a little harder for me to see when people are here, and so I would love for you to just say hi in the comments and tell me hey. And if I don't know who you are, just say where you're watching from. I would love to know that. Nina Kaiser, I see you were here liking. Thank you. Hope you're doing great. I need to email you back. So yeah, tonight I just wanted to take some time and talk about this thing that we mention a lot here at Worthy, author marketing. And sometimes I think people don't necessarily distinguish that in the way that we do from book marketing. And yet we're very conscious about the distinction for us. Because in all honesty, I feel that book marketing is broken. Just looking at marketing a book and spending money on that effort and that initiative alone is just not a good model, for a lot of reasons. I mean, a couple of reasons are that unless you are just one of the very, very lucky few in the world, you are not going to make money off of your book. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, is that if that's something that you have not heard before. But it's just the truth. For as few of copies that sell for the majority of people, and B, the amount of money you make, just a couple bucks off of every book sold. Yes, technically that's making money, but not when you're looking at a sustainable business model. And so that's why we really try to focus, or we do focus on author marketing, looking at you as an author and what is your larger business and how can we leverage this book and the fact that, this is your thought leadership going into this book. It's a credibility piece for you. How can we leverage that to grow your larger business? And so I think in some ways that differentiates us a little bit from some other folks, at least what I hear from other clients, that not a lot of other folks are really focused on that. They're more focused on, if they're marketing, it's very book, driven, or if it's even like how to write your book and that kind of thing. We're on that, certainly on the other side, on the marketing side, and like I said, more broadly. And let's face it too, writing a book is super hard, but so is marketing and selling that book. And that's another reason why it's such a shame in my mind for an author to pour so much of their heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into writing a book and then turn around, and pour just as much energy into the marketing and the selling of the book and not have a solid plan in place for their larger business and how that book launch may feed, or strategically think through how that book can feed that larger model. It feels, again, a little broken. And so we really try to help authors focus on that. So because of that, I wanted to talk a little bit tonight. And again, I'm rambling a little bit here. So just as people come in and say hi to me, I would love to see that you're here. So you have, any questions that you want to ask, or something I say trigger something, or if maybe you're just coming in and you already have a question that you want me to address, feel free to list that in the comments and I'll see that come through and I'll address it. Great. Oh, awesome. So I see that some other folks are joining. I was looking on my phone too. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. So how can you start to look at that larger business model, and what are some ways that can really serve you long term and more broadly as an author as you look at entering into the bigger picture of writing and marketing your book? And I know I'm not alone, and you've probably heard it before when you hear me say platform. Like, look at your platform. What's your platform like? And if you're publishing with a traditional publisher, you may find like they're asking you that question before you even are getting the book deal. And so they want to see what your platform is before they even offer you the deal. And so what does that mean? Some people don't understand. They hear that word thrown around a lot and they may not know exactly what platform means. Platform is, at least in my definition, is really looking at all of your connections. And so everyone that you know and who in every way that is. So it's social media, it's your email list, and not just like a subscriber email list, but it's also who are people that you know that maybe aren't subscribed to your newsletter, but are personal contacts of yours that you have a relationship with, any business relationships that you have, any organizations that you may belong to, like all your universe of contacts is your platform. And you really want to, I think, not only for your book, but just for your business as a whole, focus on, hey, Patty, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. Really focus on that platform no matter what, because it will affect everything that you do in your business. And so, really focusing on, so if you're launching a book in a year and 18 months, you should now start really focusing on, if you haven't already, strategically building that audience as best as you can. And so, and I think even more importantly, it's looking at how can you grow your email list over the next forever, really. I mean, but obviously leading up to the book launch itself. And so tonight, I'm going to go into just a few ideas as it relates to strategically growing that platform and how to, some strategic ways of thinking about that. And one really cool model that a woman on my team, Alexis, we wrote a blog post today and she posted it. She wrote the post and she put it up. And it's a really cool comparison, I think. She, back in the day, used to work for museums and doing some social media for museums. And she likens social media and platform building similar to a museum's business model. And so if you think about a museum, a lot of times when you frequent a museum, you may go once and you're like, okay, I've been there, done that. And you don't tend to want to come back unless a museum, and this is what museums do, they have rotating exhibitions come through, right? They have a new artist featured on occasion, and that's how they get you coming back over and over again. And social media can be seen in a very similar way. It's how can you adopt that same philosophy of what else can you be putting out there on a consistent basis to keep people coming back to you for more thoughts on, what your subject matter is, for more just valuable content. So whether that's free content, ideally at least to start building your audience, or even paid content, right? So, and that can range from low priced items, 10, 20 buck things that just to get people familiar with you and you building your trust with them. Obviously, the book is one thing too, when that's available. But I think even before the book comes out, you can be working on monetizing, maybe seeding whatever fund you are trying to fund to do a marketing campaign around your book, for example. What can you be selling at a low price point right now and getting a lot of people buying that you can essentially use all that money to fund marketing budget? Becca Corbridge, hey lady, glad you're here. Good to see you. I need to catch up with you. And so yeah, that is, I think that's a really cool analogy anyway. So how do you get started with that? I really think, like I mentioned before, focusing on building your email list is a really great way to start. And so some creative ways of doing that. And you can do this even organically. Of course, there's ways to, if you've got some money, and it doesn't even take a large amount of money to throw at doing some Facebook ads, some Instagram ads, social media ads in general, to be getting this, thing out in front of people, but creating some type of free asset, free in exchange for an email address, to be growing that mailing list. And that can be anything, you guys. It can be some kind of a checklist. I mean, obviously it makes sense for you to do something that is related to your area of expertise. And so if you are a coach on love and relationships, maybe there's some type of, some asset that you would want to create that's like 5 tips or 10 tips. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, like something along those lines. It can be some kind of cool asset that people are going to be interested enough to want in exchange for giving you their email address. And then the key, and this is where I see some people fail, surprisingly. It's like, okay, they create this cool thing, they get it out there, they start building their mailing list, and then they don't have a way of keeping those people warm. So continuing to stay in touch with those people through a follow-on email sequence that continues to warm those people up, to get them familiar with who you are, particularly if those folks have come through an ad where maybe you've been cold to them, right? Prior to them seeing your ad on social media, they were interested enough in your thing, they clicked through, they gave your email address, but really they are still getting to know you. And so you can use that follow-up emails to give a little bit more of who you are, tell them your story, why you're doing what you're doing, why your work is important to you, and lead them through, a series of emails over a couple of weeks. And in general, you should be offering something regularly to your email list. If you're conscious of building that and wanting to do that, then email them. They've raised their hand and they've said, I want to be on your list, particularly after all this GDPR stuff that's been going around. If they're still on your mailing list after potentially you sending them an email saying, hey, do you still want to be on my mailing list? Check out my new privacy policy, and they're still in, they want to hear from you. And so stay in touch with them in ways that make sense, whether it's emailing them your blog posts and newsletter. I always like to say, if you can give them, this is my philosophy anyway, I feel like if I've given you my email address, I want to get something more than just the blog post I can get just by coming to your website. And so I like to see, and yes, it's coming to me versus me going out to the blog, but I still like when people infuse, even if it's just a paragraph or a couple of little sentences of behind the scenes, fun little quip that maybe not the public knows, but only the people on the mailing list can get that little tidbit of information. I think that's a really fun way of, like I said, kind of treating them as more of your insider tribe and giving them more than what the public is seeing. And that incentivizes them for wanting to be on your list because they know they're going to get that kind of info from you, that not everyone else in the world sees. So that's that. And then here's what I think is another cool thing to do. So you're working on really consciously trying to build your mailing list. I mentioned ads. I don't think that you have to do ads, though. I think there are ways that you can just organically, obviously, and maybe you even do that just to start, excuse me, sharing that out on social media, asking people that are already in your network to share it for you, like saying, hey, I've got this great new thing. I would love it if you would share it. You will inevitably get new email addresses from that effort too. And so don't sacrifice that and the people that already are in contact with you and love you, to rely on them to help. So then once they're on your email list, talked about how to, keep them engaged, warm them up. Another cool thing, and especially if you're just getting going with this and you're a little unclear about what else to offer them, going back to that, keep them wanting more, and what else can you give them to keep them engaged and keep them wanting to come back to you, is to survey them. And I think you could do this really early on, sending us that follow-up email. It's like, hey, great, thank you for downloading this cool thing. I hope you enjoyed it. I want, it's important to me to give you what you want. What is it that you want? And You can do a simple poll that you can set up. You can even just say, hey, hit reply and let me know. I want to create things for you that you think are valuable. And not everyone is going to take part in that, but people will. And use that at any chance you get. And I heard somebody say, actually, this is a fun thing too, even with Instagram specifically now, it can be super easy they have the poll feature in your stories. So this could even be an easy way for you to survey people. If you come up with an idea, put the little poll thing on your Instagram story, and you'll get people, feedback from folks right away. And again, not everyone will do it, but you'll get feedback from people. Yes, that's a one choice or the other, but sometimes that's easier for folks to reply to versus an open-ended question of what do you want from me? And they don't even know what they don't know. And so it's hard potentially for them to reply saying something specific when they don't know what they are missing out on to tell you what they want. But those are some great ways, I think, of just educating yourself so that you're not spinning your wheels, creating something that you're not sure your audience even really wants, and putting it out there only for it potentially to not do that great. And so if you can have your audience tell you specifically, this is what I want, and then you give it to them, win-win, right? So, and again, it doesn't always have to be something for free. You can create things based on what their feedback is. It could be a super expensive thing, potentially. It doesn't have to mean free. It's just, again, giving them what they want. So again, I feel like that is probably the most important thing that you can do, not only as an author, I mean, as an online business person these days, in building your business, is to focus on your platform and focus on not just the numbers. I am such an advocate for, and I've sadly seen people, they've come in our door and been our client who maybe worked with who knows who prior to us to churn up a bunch of Facebook likes, followers, maybe for appearance sake, to make it look as though they had a lot of following. And in some cases, I understand the desire to want to do that, particularly when, a publisher is looking at your numbers for consideration of publishing your book. I get it. But here's where it hurts my heart and like one specific instance and this is an exact thing that happened to us. Client comes in, we're kind of inheriting her social media to help her continue to grow at surface level. Looks great. It's like, wow, she's got all these followers. We start digging in a little bit once we get access to her business manager and all of that on Facebook, and we see, interesting. So her audience are women, entrepreneurs, English speaking, primarily in the US, not exclusively, but most of her Facebook fans are Turkish men who don't speak English. So she had spent all this money, churning up a bunch of people that like to just like her page, spending I don't know how much, for that to not serve her at all, because now everything we're publishing on her Facebook page is so skewed because so much of her audience is not even the right people. And so her engagement obviously is super, super low in light of that. And anyway, we had a lot of work to do to try to weed those people out. And so all back to make sure it's the right people that you're trying to build an audience with. And engaged people are way more valuable than just a bunch of fake names. And so don't fall for the vanity and the short-term appearances of just wanting to turn up a lot of likes and followers on your social platforms when they don't really care about what you have to say. They aren't engaged in your content. They don't ultimately want to buy anything from you. It's a waste of effort and energy. So that's my soapbox on that. But I hope all that's helpful. I know, this, as people watch, I know a lot of folks, we get a lot of views after the live. And so if this kind of spurs any comments or thoughts or questions, I would love for you to, put it down below and let me know. I'm here, I'm available. I'd love to answer your questions. And even if here I am surveying you, if there's something that you're like, gosh, I would really love to know more about this for a future Facebook Live, let me know that too. I'd really love to hear it. But I think that's all I'll say for tonight. I don't want to keep it too much longer. I've been here 20 minutes already. So I will let you go, but thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. Hope you're having a great start to your summer or winter, I guess, in Australia. And grateful for you. Thanks for joining me tonight. Have a great one. Bye, everyone.